like when developing the Android apps. So like every year, Google do some changes in the code, or let's say do some changes in their documentations and all to make Android user friendly as well as developer friendly. Right. So, like in order to get our apps working as intended without unwanted bugs, these things that I'll discuss with you will help us understand and migrate our apps if needed. So here are some Android behavior changes that every developer should know. So so let's start with the things that I guess everyone who has joined today already is aware about. So, but then also, like many times, we forget these small crux or small things when implementing the code. So, as you guys already are aware that you or may not, I'll cover the everything in detail. So, you cannot start the service if your app is in the background. Now the so like matlab, to begin with, the most important thing is to note that if you attempt to let's say call the start service method when your application is not in the foreground, then the illegal state exception will be thrown. Now this thing we already know, but sometimes where we do the whenever we do the changes, what happens is key we forget what are the constraints or what are the things that Google says, which states that how can you say that if your app is in background. That's the major, like that's the question. So there are three things that Google mentions which makes your app if it is in background or not. If it is if these three conditions are met, if any of these three conditions are met, then you can say your application is in background, sorry, is in foreground, and you can start a service. So the first thing is obviously it should have a visible activity, uh, whether the activity is started or paused, or it may have a foreground service. I'll come to the foreground service in just a minute, and any another foreground app is connected to the app, to our app. So this third thing is nothing but, let's say there is a app, there is a sound recorder app which is connected to your app, right? So as you and also you already know, you must know that this sound recorder app is using foreground service, because you cannot use microphone in a background service. That also I'll cover. But yeah, you cannot use microphone or, let's say, location or camera type of things in background services. So if your app is connected to these type of apps, then you can say your app is a foreground app. Or otherwise, let's say you have a prevailing notification which you are showing onto the notification panel, then also you can say your app is connected to system UI, right? So system UI is nothing but a foreground app. So your app will also become a foreground app. So if these type of conditions are fulfilled, then we can say that your app is in foreground. Otherwise, your app is not in foreground and you cannot start the service. Now basically Android introduced a new method called start foreground service. If you want to start the service from anywhere, a foreground service, you cannot start that service using start service method. Why? Because after 5 seconds, after it has been called, this start foreground service has been called, you need to call a function called start foreground. And if within 5 seconds you haven't called the start foreground, I'll tell you the syntax as well. So that's the syntax. So if you so basically this was the old method to start any service which may or may not be in foreground. But now your code must not use this thing anywhere, otherwise it will throw illegal state exception directly, since your app you are starting may or may not be in foreground, right? So for that, what you need to confirm that you should show a notification, uh, because as I already told you ki, to fulfill that your app is in foreground or not, you need to connect your app from a to a foreground app, right? And foreground app and one of the foreground app is system UI. So if you when you run this thing, this when you use this API, within 5 seconds, you need to use this API. Otherwise, you will have the ANR plus crash. So that's the thing you need to keep in your mind whenever you are making a or starting a service. So that's the thing. Now coming to the some enforced things that Google wants to use. So the first thing is whenever you are starting the foreground service, you must use this foreground underscore service permission. Otherwise, it will throw security exception. The second one is this camera, microphone, and location thing, the GPS thing that I was talking about. I'll discuss it in detail later, but just make sure that these location, camera, and microphone, if you are using if your app wants to use these type of privacy what you can say privacy modules which takes care of users privacy, then you must use foreground service with some tweaks in the manifest that I'll tell you later in the slides. And the third point is so this was introduced latest in the Android 12. So if your app you are migrating to Android 12, or you are supposed to migrate in Android 12, then you must take care of this point. The point states that uh, if your foreground service is if you are starting your foreground service in background, let's say in a broadcast receiver, or let's say in a async task, or anywhere in a background, if you are trying to start a foreground service, so it will throw exception called foreground service start not allowed exception. So you need to make sure that your code flow is such that this should not happen. So the foreground service uh, like basically apps that target Android 12 can't start foreground services while they are in background. That's the thing. And the another interesting thing that Android that Google has done in Android 12 is this 5 seconds ANR that I was discussing in the previous slide, right? This 5 seconds ANR they have increased to 10 seconds because what happened? Sometimes what happens is you want to, let's say, do a task, but you don't want to show a notification to user, because otherwise, if every time you show a notification to user, user will be bombarded with notifications, right? So to incur that thing, what they did was they have increased the delay from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. So now uh, f- it has our foreground service has have become more streamlined, and after 10 seconds it will give an ANR. So in general, you should not use any service which does not which is not in a background. If your app is not in a background, and you should not start the service. That's the main thing. But yeah, they have increased the delay to 10 seconds. So yeah, that thing you can also uh, take in mind. Now let's discuss some broadcast limitations. This thing also many developers know, but not to the what you can say, not 100%, because many a times we generally miss some things here and there. So basically if an app registers to receive broadcasts and the app's receiver consumes resources every time the broadcast is sent, so this can cause problems, right? Problems as in the memory problems, or the phone may become slow, not even app, right? So since like our app is consuming resources every time the broadcast is sent, so let's assume there is a broadcast called let's say action boot completed, or let's say action local changed. So what these does is whenever your app is booting up from shutdown state to the booting state, right? So this action underscore boot underscore completed broadcast will be received to all the apps who are declaring this, right? So to resolve this thing, what they did was apps can no longer register these type of broadcast receivers, which are like, you can say, which are not implicit, For example, let's discuss this example that I mentioned in the slide. Action package replaced and action my package replaced. So action package replaced is an implicit broadcast that you cannot use now, from now. But my package replaced you can use, because action my package replaced is the broadcast which is only sent to those app whose package was replaced, right? So no matter how many other apps have registered the listeners for that broadcast, it will be only received to that app of which the uninstall happened. The like, no, not uninstall, the package replacement happened. Maybe it is uninstall or maybe it is update, right? This action underscore package underscore replace you cannot use, and this you can use directly into the manifest. But uh, so basically, like as I mentioned, apps can continue to register for explicit broadcast in their manifest. But now let's say you want to use these type of broadcasts. So what is the way? So there is only one way, that you will have to register the receiver at runtime. And whether it is implicit or explicit, if you use if you register your receiver at runtime, then you will be able to do it. Now there is one more thing, the permission in the broadcast receivers. Sorry, in the broadcast receiver. Yeah, correct. So broadcasts that requires a signature permission are exempted from this restriction, since these broadcasts are only sent to the apps that are signed with the same certificate. So that also like reduces the number of apps which are receiving the broadcast, right? So if you can add permission tag onto the broadcast and then declare them in the manifest, it will work. Like you can able you will be able to use any implicit broadcast as well in the manifest. Now there is a broadcast limitation that comes. So let's discuss a scenario where you want to do some background job or long running job when you receive a broadcast. So like the state of broadcast receiver affects the state of its containing process, which can in turn affect into the killing of that particular process by the system, right? So let's say for example, when a process executes a receiver, so this when a process executes a receiver, on receive will on receive will be called, right? So this on receive is when an app is receiving the data in on receive, it is considered as a foreground process, right? So the system keeps the process running, except under the cases of, let's say, extreme memory pressure. That is the another scenario. So, however, once our code returns from on receive, the broadcast receiver is no longer active, right? So, for this reason, you should not start long running background threads from a broadcast receiver. So, because after on receive, the system can kill the process at any time to reclaim memory, or let's say since your app is since your app is becoming slow, let's say, so it will reclaim the process. It will reclaim the spawned thread of the broadcast receiver. So it may happen like almost 90% it will happen that your particular background process that you want to start in that particular on receive will fail. So for that, to avoid this, you should either call this go async. If you see this code, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a I'm trying to make a async task, and then I am using this async task uh, to do my this background work, right? But now but now this async task is also deprecated, correct? So for that, what you can do, you can schedule a job service from the receiver using job scheduler. So the system knows that the process continues to perform active work. So now you can use, now you have scheduled a job, and you can start the any background process in broadcasts. but generally we tend to do either we tend to don't do anything and we just write the code, or maybe we generally use any handler or any type of async task or anything. But that's not the what you can say correct way, since it may happen that to reclaim the memory or to reclaim the long running thread, Android may kill your process. So now let's discuss some what you can say enforced updates in Android 12 specifically. So if you guys are trying to upgrade your target SDK version, or if you are even uh, if you want your compile SDK version to be Android 12, then these things you should keep in mind. So the first thing is uh, for the first thing which is very which was very interesting to me was the default handling of the system backpress, the on backpressed the on backpress thing that you receive in your main activity. uh, so this default handling of system backpress on launcher activities, basically which are the root of our tasks, our application tasks, right? So this is not, these are no longer finished when we backpress it. So generally in previous versions what was happening was the system would finish these activities on backpress. But now in Android 12, the system now moves the activity and its task to the background instead of finishing the activity. So so you can say that the new behavior matches the current behavior when navigating out of the app using the home button. So like whenever you click the home button in your phone, uh, the same state will be there when you backpress when you backpress it. So now what you have to do to migrate your code, you need to check the on backpress functionality, and you need to see if you are doing anything, or maybe if you're finishing your activity, or if you are like uh, uh, yeah, cleaning some things into on backpress or something that you need to take care of from now. Then the second thing that this Android 12 introduced was this set required user action. So it is a new API method which allow installer apps to perform app updates without requiring user confirmation. So what was happening now? Before Android 12, previously, if you want to update, if any app wants to update the app, so there was no way without users confirmation. But now if you set this set required user action to true, you can allow matlab, yeah, it will allow it will allow our app to install app updates without requiring the user action. Then basically vendor and phone makers needs to set some variables called SoC manufacturer and SoC model. So sometimes we need this to check what is the manufacturer and which API needs to be called for this particular manufacturer or particular model, right? So that like if any third party needs to access this property, they can access it without any hassle. Before that, maybe they would be using system properties or anything else, but now you can directly use, since Android 12 has added these two constants in android.os.build itself. And one more thing, if your app is using Bouncy Castle anywhere, it's just a quick update. If your app is using Bouncy Castle anywhere, then please migrate it to Conscript APIs. As AOSP has already moved their code to Conscript. So to make the code compatible, to make your code compatible with Android's one, you should use the Conscript implementations for these algorithms. And the fifth one is the most useful, I guess, since basically to add an extra layer of security to notifications on locked devices, now you can use a API called set authentication required. And if you set it to true when building the notification, you can use it as a what you can say, as a layer, as a security layer, which allows your app to require that a device should be unlocked before your apps is unlocked or not, before your apps invokes that particular notification. Like let's say on a you want to click on that notification and do something, so that thing. So you can put it as set authentication required to true before your app invokes the notification. Now let's come to the most interesting thing, that is data and storage file review. So what happens generally is the system provides you developers several options to save your app data. So generally there are like four types of things. Let me go here. So there are four types of options that you get. The first one is app specific storage. The second one is shared storage, and these two are nothing but like your preferences, or let's say data store, and this is your room database or any other database. So let's discuss these two first. So app specific storage is nothing but the storage which is meant for only your app, and the shared storage is nothing but these type of storages where any other app, matlab, where you can like collaborate with another apps. You can collaborate with another apps. So these type of storage is called shared storage. So why we are discussing it? So we are discussing it to understand the concept of scoped storage. So like Android has introduced this concept of scoped storage from Android 11 onwards, basically. So to give users more control over their files, or let's say to limit file clutter, because what was happening before that, before this Android 11 was anyone can make a file anywhere, and anyone can delete the file anywhere. So it was like very cluttery, right? So to limit that particular that to limit that file clutter, apps are given scoped storage into the external storage. Or um, let's say matlab, to make you understand, such apps have access only to the app specific directory on external storage, or the specific types of media that app has created in the shared storage. For example, let me tell you some example. So basically, the shared storage can be type of images, videos, audios, and downloaded files in general, right? So images will be stored, the shared ones. I'm talking about the shared ones. So the shared ones will be stored in the DCIM folder or pictures folder. Videos will be stored into the movies pictures folder or maybe DCIM folders. Audio files will be in alarms, audiobooks, music, notification, podcast, ringtones, or let's say music or movies. So these type of directories will be storing our shared audio files where we can create our files, or access the other media files from that particular shared storage. And this download directory is nothing but our download directory which our Android has, which will be having the all the downloads thing. That's the thing. So now, before going ahead in this slide, before making you understand this things why I was discussing, let's discuss this thing first. This characteristic table. So as I told you, this app specific files. So how can we access it? So these are the APIs that you guys are using right now as well. But right now you guys are using these APIs, and it can access the other apps data as well. If your target SDK, if your target SDK version is less than Android 11, right? But now if you use, let's say, get external files dir, or get external cache dir, or get files dir, or get cache dir, so it will point to only your app specific storage, not the whole storage, not the whole thing, matlab, not the whole what you can say disk. So for this you don't need any permission, right? Since it is your app, and it is your app storage. But can other app access? No, other app cannot access your files, right? Then there comes the shared ones. So the shared ones comes into the category of media, and you can access using Media Store API. I will discuss how it will how you can use it, but you can use using the Media Store APIs, and you need to have read external storage and write external storage permission. That I guess you must have already there. So can other app access? Yes, other apps can access it. You just need to have read external storage permission. Now here comes I'll not discuss this database and app preferences, since it is nothing but a data store or preferences library, and it is a MySQL or Room library, right? Now let's discuss this storage access framework. So storage access framework is nothing but the whole content which is neither shared or nor your app. Matlab, the whole content, the whole storage which is not which does not resides in this part or this part. So this is shared part which can be shared amongst apps. This is your part, your app's part, and this is the whole one part, right? So generally Google says that your app code should be such that you should not have access to this. Any app should not have access to this, because it may contain some what you can say, some private data or etc. But yeah, if you want to access, then yes, can other apps can access? Yes, they can, but they can only use through through system file picker. Why? So that user is aware that your app wants to use that particular file. So whenever file picker will be there, so it will be user's thing. Matlab, if user wants to cancel it, then he can cancel it. So that's the thing. So now let's come to this slide. Let's come to this slide. So let me tell you one important thing. This thing that this external there is a flag called, you must have seen this flag, request legacy external storage. So generally what happens, what developers do is use this flag in manifest and don't bother about these new things that they have introduced, that Google has introduced, and just use this flag, request legacy external storage to true, and you are good to go. But now this flag will not work. So now I'll try my best to explain you. So basically, in general, as I told you, if you see in general, there are uh, two things you want to do with the storage. The first thing is read a file. The second thing is write a file, right? So in general, you get 2 plus 2, that is four things, four ways. So to read write app specific file, read write media specific file, right? And this thing I already told you ki there is only way to read or write, that is using through system file picker. So that's the thing. So basically there are four ways, right? So to access any app specific file, read or write, there is no changes, no permissions needed. Just add read permission or write permission, and you are good to go. But for accessing the media files, what you need to do is you need to use media store APIs. You cannot directly do like get external files directly dot something something, and just you pass the path of that particular image folder, like slash movies slash pictures slash music, etc. It will not work. So how can you access it? So this is a code snippet. So first of all, this is the code snippet to write into the images thing. So we are writing one particular file onto the images path, right? So how can you do it? First, just make a content values out of the values out of the values out of the things that you want to declare. So as I told you, there are let's say if you want to save a image, so you can save in two places, DCIM or pictures, right? So here I am trying to save the pictures in DCIM folder, right? So what I'll do is I'll like these three things are mandatory. So I'll give the name, the MIME path, the image MIME path, and the relative path. Relative path is nothing but the parent or root path, you can say. Or if you want to put into some other folder like DCIM slash something something, then you can do here. And after that, right now this URI is null, but like no, sorry, right now this content URI is pointing to the images URI. But if you want to save to any other, if you want to save to, let's say, videos or audios or any other downloaded files, then you can use that particular URI and just use insert. So you will be able to insert that particular file. So that's the basically you can say code snippet. You can explore more this in media store APIs. So now the shared thing is also done. Now many of you will have question ki, but I want some data from another app. So how can what can I do? If I want to use any now how can I read or write the files created by other apps? So for that, Android have introduced a permission named manage external storage. So, but although Google encourages us to not use this, Google says in their documentation that if your app wants to use this manage external storage permission, which means your app is having some what you can say some flaw in some design in your code design. So you need to see that. Why? Because if you want to why do you want to edit some data which was created by another app? So only if even only if you are a file manager, right? Otherwise you should not edit or delete data created by another app. So that's the thing. But if you want to use it, you can use by using this permission. Let's say if your flow is such that you cannot use any other way, and you want to use it, then you can use this manage external permission and ask user to give the permission, and you can go ahead. So you will be able to edit or delete the data created by another apps. Now the last thing comes is ki, let's say okay, I don't want to delete it or edit it, but I want to access it. I want to only read the data, not write or delete or anything, right? So how can I do it? So for that there is a old tried and tested way, that is using a file provider, right? So just use file provider, and you will be able to share the data to another apps. And if you don't want to share the data to any other app, just don't use any file provider, or don't create anything onto the shared storage. Because if you create onto any if you create anything onto these shared folders, shared storage, then anyone can access it. So that's the whole thing. I hope I have tried to make this very short. Malab, this scoped storage is very big topic, but yeah, that's the whole thing. And the most important part is this flag won't work now. So you need to change your code according to this. Like if you're using, let's say, these functions, get external files directory, and you are trying to use any folder, and try to use any folder in for creating or deleting or editing or anything, any CRUD operation, then you will not be able to do it. So you will have to update the code accordingly. So here was the code snippet. Now let's go to this. So basically these are some mandatory privacy changes. So if you remember, when we were talking about foreground services changes that Android has introduced, I was talking about this location, camera, and microphone thing, right? So basically these are three things: location, that is GPS, camera, and microphone. These three things are the most vulnerable things of a user in a smartphone, right? So Google wanted to ensure that these three things cannot be accessed without users what you can say without users access, or without users knowing. If user knows that you are using the camera, or you are using the microphone, or you are using the location, then no problem. But if user don't know, you cannot use it, even if your foreground even if you are having a foreground service. So for that, they have introduced like let's say you are using camera in your foreground service in your current code, right? So that will not work from now. Why? Because you haven't specified this foreground service type. So if you have specified the foreground service type, then uh, Android as a framework will know that, okay, so this particular foreground service may or may not use these three type of things. So you can use only location, you can use camera, you can use any type of combination out of these three, right? So that was the third point. Now coming to the first and second. So these are sort of, you can say, tricky ones, but yeah. So let's say when asking permissions, let's say basically how can I understand how can so basically let's say you have granted a permission to user for location or microphone or camera. So there is a what you can say, there is a in settings, if user goes to settings and if he chooses one time permission, which means I think you must have already used this one time permission dialog. So if you have used if user has given this one time permission, what will happen? Microphone or camera or GPS will be used for the one time, and then your app will be the permission will be resetted for your app, right? So your app should be considered as without this permission. So let's say you didn't gave the permission again, and you are using this foreground service to access, let's say, location, but location was one time permission, and it got denied for the second time. So this code will throw security exception basically. So for that, you need to have a flow such that whenever you are accessing the location or microphone data or camera, you should have that permission. That thing you need to make sure. Like not only specifying this foreground service will do the work, since this one time permission got introduced. Before that, it was not a problem. The second thing is that they introduce is permission auto reset. So generally, this permission auto reset, Google has not given the exact algorithm, but there is some algorithm which auto resets the permissions of your apps. Maybe due to, let's say, if your app is idle for a very long time, or any other algorithm that they haven't discussed. But this permission auto reset is nothing but they reset all the permissions. But now let's say your app wants to use some permission which was auto reset. So then also your app will not work. Your app may or may not crash, right? So for that, there is a tip, like this thing you can what you can say, like matlab, it is a very great tip, you can say, that check that your app has a permission before attempting to access data that is guarded by that permission. So anytime you want to access that, you want to access GPS, anytime you want to access microphone, anytime you want to access camera, then just check that your app has permission or not. So it will resolve all the issues, all the changes that they have done. So that was the thing for this foreground privacy changes basically. Now there is one more interesting change that Android has done in Android 11, I guess. So yeah, in Android 11. So what they have done is they have done basically the package filtering. Now not every app will have the access to the things of another apps, even if you have used the exported variable. Because previously what was happening, if you have used exported variable, then any other app can use your, let's say, can launch your activity, can launch or any other things that you have exported to true provider or service, etc., right? But now what happens, uh, like uh, like that the default apps have access to only a filtered list of packages. And let's say you want to see some XYZ app, you want to use the provider of that app, you want to use the service of that app, you want to use any activity of that app, right? You want to start any other app service access provider. Yeah, correct. So if you want to read any files data, that particular app's files data, etc., right? So for that you need to add a queries element in your Android manifest. Otherwise your app, basically your app will not see that particular app even if exported is true. So to make sure that your app can see that app, your app can see that app, scan that app, you can say. Yeah, so this is that code snippet. So let's say you want to you want to see the provider of that particular app. So just specify the authority, or let's say if you have permissions in that particular provider, uh, क्या बोलते हैं uh, yeah, just write those things. And let's say you want to see the whole package, you want to see the whole app, right? Maybe you want to interact with that app, or you want to just use a particular service of that app. So you can specify a package and then package name of that particular app. And if you want to use any intent, that particular action in that intent, or the data stream for that intent, or anything like that, then you can use this thing. But this query tag must be there. Otherwise your app will not be able to see the other apps, basically. now what happens is the compatibility of this queries declaration that you have done with your code, or let's say we are like working in a SDK environment, right? So to migrate your app or the app using your SDK, let's say your SDK is running on your SDK's Android manifest is having this queries change, right? But but the app which is implementing your SDK, right, is not having the Gradle version as either 4.1 plus, or there are some versions that they have published for 4.0, that is 4.0.1. So if your app is not using 4.0.1 or 4.1 plus, then the SDK code will crash. It will encounter the manifest merging errors, basically. So these type of errors we were also facing when we were trying to integrate our app with some OEMs. When we were trying to integrate our Glance app into the OEMs, since the OEM's code was the OEM's Gradle plugin was less than 4.1 plus, and we were using this Android 11's queries manifest. Sorry, queries tag in the manifest. So this manifest merging issues were coming. So they need to make sure that they will use Android 4.1 plus. Otherwise nothing will work. Like there is no other way to do it. So that's the thing. So now the last thing, which is I think the most important thing, and every developer will have to do many changes in in this part if they are going from Android 11 to Android 12. That is foldable changes. So basically, Google wants the framework and apps to be compatible with foldables, because now you can see like almost every OEM is like launching their foldables, right? And even many of the OEMs wants to launch the this laptop, or you can say Chrome OS as well, right? So for Chrome OS and foldable changes, the most important change is multi-window, right? Multi-window is nothing but you can like the behavior is just like Windows or let's say Mac OS, that you can see more than one window in a screen. That is called multi-window. But as you are already aware that we have been learning, and we know that at one time in Android only one focusable activity or one focusable app will be there, right? So how can we use the apps, how can we use the multi windows apps at one time? So for that what they have done is they have changed the behavior of on pause and on resume. So these two methods will work differently now. So I'll tell you the basic difference. When multiple apps appear at the same time in multi-window, or let's say multi-display window, right? So all the focusable top activities in the visible stacks are in the resumed state. Let's say there are four apps which are opened. So all the four apps will be in the resumed state, but only one of them will be the focusable resumed activity, which will be having the focus, right? Because those four apps will cannot have the focus. So four apps, like those apps are in the resumed state but not in the focused state, right? But so what happens, uh, if let's say you clicked on app A, so app A will become in the so app A will become focused. And let's say after that you clicked on app 2, so app 2 will become focused, but on pause will not be called. Why? Because we know that we know that on pause will only be called when when user wants to go to what you can say, that type of state where they don't want to see they don't want to see the UI. But that's not the case in multi-window. So like on stop method will be called after on pause, in general. And after on stop, your app is not visible, right? But that does not but that is not happening here. Here we can see the app. So for that they have introduced a callback called on top resumed activity changed. So generally, where the code change will happen is in general change will happen in on pause. Because right now what was happening, ki you were having the code in on pause or on stop, and you were doing some things in that particular method, right? But now what happens, you will not get call in on pause or on stop, but you will get call in the on top resumed activity changed. So whenever you can subscribe to this on top resumed activity change callback to be notified whenever when your activity acquires or loses the topmost resumed position, the focused position that I was talking about, right? So you can use this particular callback to use those methods that you to use those methods or to use those APIs that you are using in the on pause or on stop thing. Or let's say in on resume you want to resume something. So these type of things you need to like migrate into this on top resume activity change callback. So so that your app is working with Android 12, sorry, multi-window, not Android 12, because this multi-window feature was introduced in Android 10. But now in Android 12, what is the difference is that Android 12 has made this multi-window as standard behavior. So now your app will start to crash. Until Android 11, your app was not, yeah, like you didn't change anything, and everything was working fine. But now in Android 12, yeah, your app will start to crash, generally due to this resizable activity flag. So there is a flag called resizable activity. So that flag, if you have specified, let's say resizable activity true, false. So right now it was working fine, but now it will not work fine since it is a multi-window, and multi-window is nothing but a resizable. You can resize the windows in Microsoft Windows or Mac, right? So you need to have that behavior, that multi-window behavior, and you need to do these changes for the focused things. So this is the thing. Now, last but not the least, this lint warning. So like this lint warning was when I was integrating into the OEMs. So basically our OEM wanted to integrate to Android 12. So that's why we were having these errors. So this lint error was very basic, but I thought like we generally get many lint errors, right? And we tend to ignore it. But this lint error was matlab, it is very bad. Because why? Because your app will be built, there will be no issues. But then since we are a SDK, and when the SDK code when some other app which is targeting the SDK version to Android 12 wants to merge our uses our SDK. So when this SDK is used, so many manifest merger happens, right? So manifest merger will be failed, and it will say that apps targeting Android 12 or higher are required to specify the exported variable explicitly. But right now, what happens whenever we use any intent filter in activity, we don't use this exported variable right now, right? So we generally in our SDK also there were many activities in manifest which were not having this exported variable set right explicitly because it was not needed. But now it is needed, and this manifest merger will be failed. Manifest merger task will be failed if the target SDK version of the app on which you are giving the SDK to is Android 12, so it will fail basically. So for that, just keep in mind that whenever using intent filters in manifest, you will have to specify the exported variable every time. So this what you can say, this small error will not come. So yeah, these were the what you can say, the major things that I found. Actually, you will not find any what you can say, any tutorial or anything. So what I did was I just read the documentation for Android 12 and the other changes, and I just compiled all the important, not all things. I'll not say all the things because in 1 hour session it was not. Um, it was not possible, but I copied, or you can say I made those I took those changes. I took those changes which were very important to make any app working. There are many other things as well, there are many telephony APIs that were changed. There were many native libraries that are changed. So if your app is using telephony framework, then your app may not crash into these new versions. If your apps is having is using any native libraries, then your app may or may not crash because many APIs they have changed, or many APIs they have what you can say changed the access, or you can say change the flow of those particular APIs. So most importantly, like these foreground services things, uh, these type of things we generally tend to forget. And this data file and storage overview, in this thing, this request legacy external storage. So this flag, please don't use. You will find many Stack Overflow answers, you will find many tutorials where people will say that to resolve your issue, let's say you are facing some storage issue, you are not able to access something, or etc etc. So they will say into the Stack Overflow answer that just use this request legacy external storage to true, and you are good to go. But that will also not work post Android 10, basically, and greater than or equals to Android 11. So you need to change your code to either use the shared storage or either use the app specific storage. And if you want to use this the data created by another apps, then you can use manage external storage, but I'll prefer not to. like uh, i'll try to use I'll try to change my code design so that I don't want to mess up, or I don't want to change the another app's data which was created by another app. So that's the thing. I'll share the PPT. Yeah.